Let's run! Run is brought to us by directors Anish Chaganty and Emma Miranda Moore and stars Kira Allen and Sarah Paulson. We follow Chloe, played by Kira Allen, a teenage girl who's getting ready to go to college who was born with all kinds of fucked up problems. She's got respiratory problems, diabetes, she's confined to a wheelchair, and just a whole bunch of other shit. She apparently barely made it through birth, but when she did, her mother, played by Sarah Paulson, became, understandably so, very protective of her. Chloe doesn't get out much. She's homeschooled, and pretty much every move that she makes is under the supervision of her mother. However, recently, Chloe has started to question some of the things that she's always known. When a certain medicine she takes comes into question, she starts to wonder if there's something going on here that she doesn't know about. And from there, things start to unravel, and she starts to suspect that everything might not be on the up and up with her mother. Now, beyond that, I really don't want to go too much more into the story of Run, because to know much more going into this movie could ruin some of the best parts of the film. Run was originally set to release earlier this year, but of course, with everything going on in the world, much like many other films, it got pushed back until Netflix acquired it, and now it's being released on their streaming platform. I remember seeing the trailer to this around about a year ago, thinking that looks interesting, I'd like to see that when it comes out. And then nothing until last week when I looked and saw, oh look, Run's coming out, and it's coming out on Netflix. And after finally getting to watch the movie, I really enjoyed it. This was a really fun movie. At its heart, Run is a thriller. Maybe a pinch of psychological there, but for the most part, it's just straight up thriller. And that aspect of the movie is done very well. This movie's got some really tense scenes that'll have you gripping the seat for dear life. Many of the best scenes in the movie involve Chloe getting around the house and other places without being detected. And seeing as how she is wheelchair bound, sometimes she has to come out of that chair and she's usually on a timetable racing the clock. It's a lot like those scenes in Misery, while Michael Caine's character was trying to go around the house and then get back to his bed before Annie came back home. The situations themselves are very nerve-wracking, but the expert way that they're filmed ratchets that tension up to 11. These are some of the best parts of the movie, and thankfully there were quite a bit of the movie because the movie does come in at a very brisk 1 hour and 30 minutes. This movie's lean, it does not waste any time. It's got a story to tell and it jumps right into it and goes. And I really appreciate that. There's no downtime, you're never bored. This movie is just going the whole time. Even during these slower moments in the film, there is always something going on in the background. There's always a level of tension at all times. Now the story and the mystery that goes throughout the movie is all really good, but the payoff is really fun. Now notice I said really fun and not necessarily really good. It is good in the way that it is very entertaining. However, I do have to admit it is a bit convenient and contrived at times. Doesn't change the fact that it's still fun and satisfying though. But the rest of the movie just seemed like it was a little bit more thoughtful, and when we get to the end, while yes it is entertaining, it's fun and satisfying, it doesn't seem like quite as much deep thought went into it. It's a bit contrived, and there's definitely one or two far-fetched conveniences. Either way though, it was entertaining, and that's what a movie is supposed to do, is entertain me, and that is exactly what Run did. From a performance side, everything's looking really solid too. The vast majority of the movie's runtime does focus on Allen and Paulson's characters, and they both do a really good job, especially Paulson. Holy shit, she comes across as creepy as shit sometimes. We don't know exactly what's going on here all the time, but we know that something's off. Whether it's malicious or not, we're not totally sure, but Paulson absolutely is sinister as fuck. Like, she ramps the creepy up to fucking 20 here and totally sells the show. Whenever her character was on screen, it was a joy. You never knew exactly what she was going to do. It always seemed like some other personality was about to jump out of her at any given time, and she was just barely holding it back right under the surface. And she totally sells the whole, is she crazy and out there and doing something nefarious, or is she just really understandably so overprotective of her child that she almost lost at birth? Newcomer Kira Allen is a very likable, believable main character that you want to get answers to these questions. This is a very solid first-time outing and keeps the viewer behind her the whole time. Suffice to say, the performances in Run are all around just really good. Now from a technical side, there's not a whole lot of special effects or anything in the movie because the vast majority of it just deals with these two people kind of doing a cat and mouse in the house. That rhymed. We get a couple of practical small things a bit closer to the end, but it's nothing mind-blowing and it all looks very believable. The camera work, however, is really good. The way that they move the camera in this movie is just right to help ratchet that tension up just a bit more than it already is. And there's also some really neat angles that they chose here or there that keep us in the perspective of our protagonist. Overall, it's a really high quality and very nice movie to look at. Guys, Run was a really good time. It's got a really interesting story that kept me hooked till the end. Some great performances and waste no time moving at a brisk clip. And while the end does have a couple of conveniences and is a bit contrived, it doesn't change the fact that it was very satisfying and entertaining, because Run is absolutely worth streaming.
Across the street.
Run was a really good time. And if you're looking for a very solid, entertaining movie for the night, then check out Run and you won't be disappointed. So there it is, guys, my review of Run. Bitch, run! I couldn't help myself. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Seattle.
I know that I've scared you, but I will spend every minute of our lives making sure you never feel that way again.
Now, I left this part out of the main review because it does slightly possibly verge on spoiler territory. I just wanted to mention something about the movie I did really like, but it has to do with the very end of the movie. I'm gonna be really vague, and I don't think this is a spoiler, but some of the more clever of you out there could possibly derive details about the ending from what I'm going to say. So proceed with caution if you haven't seen the movie. You know how in movies there's like decisions you want characters to make that you say, that's what I would do if I were that person, and it's typically like an emotional reaction to something. It's not something you'd necessarily really do, but in that moment, it sounds really good. These are usually pretty vindictive decisions too. Now, there's a thing that happens in the end of the movie that I actually really liked because this movie totally committed. Most movies don't go there. Movies in this type of situation will typically make you say that, hey, I want this to happen, but you don't really expect it to happen. You don't expect the movie to actually go there. But Run does, and while you do have to suspend disbelief a little bit, especially if you really start thinking about everything that would go into this, it was pretty fucking epic either way, and the fact that they put it in there just really subverted my expectations as to what this character was going to do. Movies just don't do that, and I really appreciate that they did that because they probably said, you know what, we know everybody's thinking it, so instead of going the conventional route and just not doing it, we're gonna fucking do this shit. Regardless if you really start to think about it, if it makes sense or not, we're gonna fucking do it anyway. And it was fucking awesome. But not only was it awesome, but holy shit, that would take some fucking dedication. Too much for me.